back. NFL commentary. Do me a favor, take a moment, like button, subscribe button, criticism in the comment section. Twitter, Shutdown Safety is my username. Randy Gregory, a lot of people project him to be a first-round pick out of Nebraska, defensive end, said during an NFL Network interview that he tested positive for marijuana at the NFL Combine in February. And, there's no good side to this, but I will say that he took ownership of it. Quote, "I blame myself," and I know it sounds cliche, but there's really no one else I can blame, end quote. And, regardless of how you feel about marijuana, whether you want it to be legal or not, your employer will actually always still be the one that enforces the drug code and the testing. So, to me, it's not relevant when we talk about it in sports, Secondly, the Combine has set dates. I mean, the public knows about the NFL Combine, much less all the participants know when it is. He isn't the first, and he's not the last athlete that's going to get hit by drug testing here, but it amazes me, nevertheless, when this happens. You go to what ultimately is a job interview that's potentially worth millions of dollars. In most cases, you've done nothing but work the last 5 to 8 years to get to this point, and you still have these issues with drug tests. Now, he came out, he said he didn't smoke marijuana since December, and yet he still tested positive because of how high his THC levels were. And, being an athlete myself, I don't really understand that. I mean, I've never been an NFL Combine-ready athlete. My opinion of someone on that scale would be on a daily diet, on a daily training regimen, more than likely daily supplement plan. How could you have not smoked marijuana for 2 months and still come out positive, And the end result of this, like it or not, is he's going to be in the league's drug system, which means he's going to get tested for other drugs. He's going to be tested more frequently. He's going to be subjected to swifter and longer potential suspensions in the future. And it's just difficult to see or know how a team is going to have this affect his value. I think there's probably some teams that were already questioning a defensive end under 250 pounds. This is probably going to put those teams over the edge. I think Jadeveon Clowney probably impacted defensive linemen going early for quite some time, and that's no fault of anyone coming out now. It's just, historically that's what teams are going to fall back and look at unless he sets the world on fire this year. And to be honest with you, when I look at undersized, speed rushers, if you will, they work great when they're in a system that they're designed around. But, it quickly sours if they're not in that system, like we saw with, a player like Aaron Maben, unless he could quickly learn to, drop into coverage or play in open space. And to be honest with you, the college to NFL speed and talent difference, you won't know that. We won't know that about him until we're, maybe through the preseason, maybe even a couple weeks into the actual season. So, he's an intriguing pass rushing prospect. He has a world of skills and talent. But it's going to be very interesting to me to see how this off-the-field issue is going to follow him going into the draft. I'd love to know your guys' opinions on this. I appreciate you checking out the video. I'll be back in the week with more content.